Teresa, can you just repeat that, please?
The first number is 439358.
Right over there.
Thank you for the opportunity. So you describe yourself as a moderate, yet you support all of the policies that this authoritarian administration is putting forth, including tax cuts for the corporations and the ultra-wealthy, the tariffs that are going to make everything more expensive for us, kidnapping and deporting 2-year-olds who have cancer and sending them off. So my question to you, none of this is helping us. We're getting hurt. We in the community are being harmed by this. What are you doing to stand in opposition to this administration, and what specifically are you doing that warrants the label moderate?
So again, my record speaks for itself. I have been rated the 4th most bipartisan for a reason, which is a very simple fact, that unlike many of my colleagues, I actually do work across the aisle. I actually do sit down with my colleagues. There's not a single local elected official who can honestly say that I have not sat down with them and worked with them regardless of their party. There's not a single one of my Democratic colleagues in the Congress who could say that I don't do that. When it comes to, folks, if you want me to answer the questions, let the question be asked and then listen to the answer. If you're just going to yell back and forth, the time is going to run pretty quick. So folks, when it comes to the economy, okay, we have an affordability crisis. This crisis didn't just start. We've been dealing with it for the last 4 years. Everything went up. The cost of groceries, the cost of housing. For instance, in Rockland County, the average mortgage cost went up $1,000 a month. That's over $12,000 a year on an annual basis, okay? And so what we're dealing with is trying to reverse a lot of this. What happened? What caused that? What caused record inflation? $5 trillion in new spending in the first 2 years of the Biden administration is what gave us record inflation. And so when you have record inflation, you have to be able to curtail inflation. So what happened? Interest rates went up, right? And that drove up mortgage costs. You have to be able to reverse that. So you bring down interest rates, you bring down spending. Right now, we are $36 trillion in debt. We are spending $7 trillion on an annual basis, with $2 trillion in deficit spending and $1 trillion in interest payments on our debt. At the end of this year, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is going to expire. And we're getting there. If the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act expires, do you know what will happen? The standard deduction will be cut in half. That will be the largest tax increase in American history. The corporate tax rate is set at 21%, and I don't support lowering it. I don't support changing the corporate tax rate. I do support lifting the cap on salt, which directly impacts all of us in this room. Under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, the state and local tax deduction was capped at $10,000 per individual. And that was passed by a Republican Congress and signed by President Trump. I didn't support it then, and I don't support it now. And that is why, as we negotiate the reconciliation bill, I have been working to lift the cap on salt. That will provide immediate tax relief to all of us in this room. Prior to 2017, 50% of households itemized their deduction in our district. After the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it was down to about 18% of households itemizing their deduction. Most people chose to take the standard deduction. I want to lift the cap on salt because all of us know our property taxes are among the highest in the nation. And so that is critically important. That is a big proponent of the bill that we are in the process of negotiating right now. And so that is, folks, I was answering the tax question. With respect to tariffs, tariffs are obviously something that has been a big point of discussion for many years. Chuck Schumer and Bernie Sanders both previously on the record said that they supported increasing tariffs. And part of the reason is because other countries have had significantly higher tariffs, barriers to entry, and price controls on U.S. goods. And when you look at, for instance, Europe has price controls on U.S. prescription drugs. U.S. prescription drug costs are significantly higher. U.S. prescription drug costs are significantly higher because we are subsidizing Europe. Europe puts price controls on U.S. drugs. If you want to pay higher drug costs, then I guess you want Europe to keep their price controls in place. Is that what you're arguing for? At the end of the day, we need a negotiation between our country and other countries to reduce overall tariffs, to reduce barriers to entry for U.S. goods and products, including cars, including agricultural products. We want to be able to sell those in other countries. But when you have Europe blocking American cattle from coming in, or you have Japan blocking U.S. cars from coming in, that's not fair trade. So negotiating a fair trade deal is critically important, and that's what we're in the process of doing.